Don't you dare come back if you can't even do basic housework. My mother-in-law Mookie spit these words at me in rage while I was hospitalized due to a broken leg. The irony was that she was the cause of my injury, yet instead of apologizing, she was trying to throw me out of the house. Pushed to my limits, I responded with a smile on my face. "Oh, I'd be delighted to do that, ma'am." However, a few days later, my husband Alex revealed the truth to my mail.
Do you have any idea, Mom? Did you not know about Emily?
Upon hearing the truth revealed by my husband, my mouth turned as pale as a ghost. My name is Emily Johnson. 3 years ago, I got married to Alex, whom I met through a mutual acquaintance. The family runs a diner, managed primarily by his mother. His father passed away at an early age, and his mother single-handedly raised him, which I'm sure was a tough journey. Initially, I deeply affected my meal, but that didn't last for long. Even after getting married, because Alex wanted me to continue working, I didn't quit my job. Alex, as the second-generation owner of the diner, was running the business alongside his mother. However, my Miles seemed to dislike the fact that I didn't help around their house. "A woman who doesn't even help with house chores," she'd grumble. "Even if you say you're working outside, we all know a woman of salary isn't much," she'd complain every day. Soon her constant complaining escalated to harassment. "You don't do chores at all," she'd complain, and when I managed to squeeze in some time for house chores, "You're not doing it properly at all. Do you even care?" Even though I thought I was doing a decent job, it was never good enough for her. She'd berate me, calling me a useless wife who can't do housework, and at times she would lecture me for hours. Her harassment intensified, and stress kept building up. When I tried talking to Alex about it, he said, "It's between you two, right? Don't drag me into this." Then, one day, an incident broke out. The diner was closed that day, and my Mile left early and had the morning to go somewhere. As evening came, I received a sudden call demanding me to come and get her. The call ended abruptly before I could even refuse, leaving me with no choice but to reluctantly head to the train station. When I finally reached the station, she did nothing but complain all the way home, accusing me of being late, complaining about the heating system. It was nothing new, so I just nodded and shrugged it off. But I guess that got on her nerves. What kind of attitude is that? Don't you think it's disrespectful to your meal? In a fit of rage, she raised her hand against me, even though I was driving. In a fit of rage, she raised her hand against me, even though I was driving.
Ouch! Stop it! I'm driving, you know.
Quiet. Don't you dare talk back to me. My pleas fell on deaf ears as she was blinded by anger. Just not satisfied with her slaps, she tried to kick me hard, but her foot hit the steering wheel. The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed. Where am I? Exthornates. I asked the nurse, who happened to be changing my IV drip, about what had happened. Apparently, I had been brought to the hospital after a car accident. I had broken my right leg and suffered cuts and bruises all over my body. How's my mother-in-law? She's only got some scratches. There were no other injured persons. The nurse's words relieved me a bit.
Acted injured? Where did you get injured? Right here, as she said this, she rolled up her sleeve and there was just a small piece of gauze attached.
X, on the other hand, I was confined to my bed, unable to even get up. After all, the accident was her fault. Out of nowhere, she lost her temper and hit me while I was driving, leading us into a wreck. But there wasn't a single word of apology from my mother-in-law. Far from it, on top of being good for nothing, you want to be a nuisance to your own mother-in-law. You're nothing but a god of pestilence. I never liked you from the start. Don't you dare come back if you can't even do basic housework. The moment I heard those words, I could hear something snap inside me. Oh, I'd be delighted to do that, Mom. Words slipped from my mouth before I even knew it. My mother-in-law just stood there with a stunned look on her face. Alex, I won't be returning to your house. I'm going to divorce Alex. Thank you for everything until now. As I bowed slightly, my mother-in-law was jolted back to reality. Oh, how unusual for you to listen. For once. Yes, just as you say, I'm useless and worthless. I don't belong in your house. Pretending to be downcast, I said this, and my Mile left the hospital room, unable to say anything further. My mother-in-law came to my room to complain as usual. Just as I was ignoring her as usual, Emily suddenly burst in.
Emily, why are you here? What changed your mind?
Playful Alex burst in, holding a divorce paper with my details already filled in. Emily, I asked my family to mail it. I'm glad it arrived just fine.
By all of a sudden,
Upon being asked, I relayed to my husband what my mother-in-law had told me.
and to think, Mom, did you not know Emily earns way more than I do? What? My husband turned pale as he asked this, sort of like in a shaky voice.
Yes, I've been working for a large corporation since before we got married. I've diligently worked and achieved decent results. So I hold a fairly high position now. My salary reflects the toughness of the job and is, as my husband put it, quite substantial. But she doesn't look like she earns that much, does she? She always wears the same sort of clothes. That's because Emily has been spending her money on our diner.
This is true. The diner my mother-in-law runs is on the brink of bankruptcy. It was in a tight spot when my husband took it over. My mother-in-law had no business acumen, so my husband was trying to run it around. He says, I've been using my salary to keep the diner afloat, and I've given a lot of advice about its management.
At least we managed to escape the worst situation, but without my salary, the diner would probably go out of business soon.
No, that can't be true. Also, I should mention that I've already consulted with the police about the accident you caused.
What? At my mother-in-law's utterly shocked expression, I could only sigh in exasperation. Since an accident occurred, of course. The police will conduct an inquiry, right? So I've reported everything exactly as it happened to the police. I've also submitted the dashcam footage.
Judging from your reaction, it seems you're aware you caused the accident, aren't you? There's a chance you could be held criminally liable. But if you admit it, you might get off with a lighter sentence.
After a while, my mother-in-law started trembling, and then, to my surprise, she knelt before me. I'm sorry, I had no idea we were living off your money. I'm sorry about the accident, too. Reflecting on my actions, please forgive me. Reflecting on my actions, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I had no idea we were living off your money. I'm sorry about the accident too. I'm reflecting on my actions. Please forgive me. My mother-in-law changed her attitude right away. Had to change from me. Until now, she'd never uttered an apology. Is it that easy to say sorry if it means she gets off the hook? That the sight of her is pathetic. It makes me more disgusted than angry.
Emily, mom's really sorry. You'll forgive her, right?
My husband, Alex, said this in a near sob as he laid his hand on my mother-in-law's back. She looked up at him with tearful eyes, and he nodded back reassuringly, touching them, trying to garner sympathy. What am I saying?
Forgive you guys? What are you saying? I will never forgive you guys.
Duh.
Isn't it obvious, actually? I intended to divorce you even before this mess with your mom. Even when I was seriously injured and hospitalized, you never visited me. You spent my salary without a shred of gratitude. I've been fed up with you for a while now. There's no benefit for me in staying married to you. In fact, you're only bringing me down. That's why I'm divorcing you.
I smiled brightly in stark contrast to Alex and my mother-in-law, whose faces were filled with despair. There was some fuss afterward, with Alex throwing a tantrum, but once I mentioned getting a lawyer involved, he quickly signed the divorce papers. But the regret of marrying him cut deep. Once they lost my support, their family diner quickly faced issues with operation. It shut down in no time, leaving Alex and my mother-in-law in a poor state. They sold off the diner for peanuts and moved to a run-down apartment. Having no work experience outside the diner, they could only find low-paying jobs, barely making ends meet. By the way, it turned out that my mother-in-law had lied about losing her husband at a young age. She was quite a player, and her fed-up husband had filed for divorce and left her, even on the day of the accident. She was out gallivanting with a man. I found out these details from a police officer who was investigating the accident. I have nothing but gratitude for the police, who kept the investigation. My mother-in-law will probably be charged with some crime at some point, already living a miserable life. If they end up in police custody, they would surely face ruin. Perhaps sensing this, received a plea for reconciliation from my ex-husband after our divorce.
If you continue to bother me, I'll have the cops come for you and your mother.
Once I threatened him, he never showed up in front of me again. The divorce went through smoothly, and I cut ties with my in-laws, and my broken bone healed after treatment. Just working for myself, and being able to spend money only on myself. I had no idea how much happiness this would bring. I'm considering valuing myself more, and if I find a partner who values me, I'm considering getting remarried.